So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a video that I really didn't want to have to do, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, but I'm here, and I do want to talk about the final yesterday, because I think we need to. The facts are, look, if Man United had won the Europa League, I wouldn't be making this video, because I'd be celebrating. I'd be like, oh, fantastic, we've done well, bloody-bloody-blue. But obviously, when you lose matches, people are going to be more critical about you, and that's kind of the way things go. So I'm going to be leaving my thoughts right now on what happened yesterday, what was good, what was bad, if there was any good about it. And you let me know as well. Obviously, whether you're a United fan or not, it doesn't matter. You can still leave a comment. What would you do in such a situation if Arsenal got to the final? What would have you done? You know, it doesn't really matter. But the facts are, we lost, right? We lost on penalties. The penalties were honestly far more entertaining than the whole 2 hours of the match. And the penalties were nuts, and we'll go to that afterwards. But let's talk about the match itself. So these are the match stats, right? And you look at them and you go, oh, okay, there was a lot of shots on target. 12 attempts to 14. But my, oh my, was the shooting horrendous. I mean, Man United couldn't hit the target. Villarreal was the same. In fact, Villarreal had one shot on target and they scored it. You know, we had 2 shots on target. I mean, the shot on target from Rashford that went in wasn't even going in. I mean, it was going well wide. Took a deflection. Cavani tapped it in. So the actual quality of football yesterday was pretty poor. I mean, it was a very boring game. Very timid. I can kind of understand it because it is a final. And yes, players are nervous. But I would generally expect a way better Champions League final than the Europa League. I mean, Man City are, one of the best teams right now when it comes to playing possession, pinging it about. We didn't see that from United yesterday, and I think that's what annoyed me more than anything else, is I know how well Manchester United can play. We've seen it in spurts. We've played some really nice football, intricate 1-2s. But yesterday, for some reason, it's like we forgot how to play. Now, I know Villarreal had their style of play. As soon as they got the goal, they started defending, and it was hard for us to break them down because Man United cannot break teams down when they sit back and defend. It's a big problem of ours. Generally, we like to play the counter-attacking football. That's how we score most of our goals. So when you play up against a team that sits back, makes it very, very, very difficult to do so. But anyway, there's the match stats. We have more possession, a lot more passes, better pass accuracy. But at the end of the day, it was still a very tepid, lame kind of final. But, it is what it is. What we're here to talk about is, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, the lineup he chose, the decisions he made. Has he got a problem with this United team, with himself, thinking that he has absolutely no depth in this squad? Because judging by yesterday, Solskjaer does not trust any of his substitutes, which is kind of ironic in the sense that Solskjaer was a substitute. Sir Alex Ferguson gave him a chance in the Champions League final in 1999. He came on, he scored the winner. And yet Solskjaer didn't want to do the same yesterday. That's kind of what got to me a little bit, because I listened to his pre-match interview, and he spoke about subs, and he spoke about how important they are, and he even said, oh, they should be annoyed at me that I'm not playing them, and I want them to use that fire in their belly to go in there and perform. And then he doesn't make a single sub till literally the end of the game. End of not the game, the end of extra time. Baffling. Anyway, this was the lineup he put out. Basically, he went for the strongest 11 that he had. De Gea in goal. Obviously, he could have started Henderson. He decided against it. Luke Shaw, Lindelof, Bailly, Wan-Bissaka. It's the best pairing at the back we've got. He had Tenzabi. He chose to go for Bailly and Lindelof together. I mean, Bailly's a solid player, but he's a little bit of a nutcase sometimes. He is a little bit of a loose cannon, and he will do things like, that Maguire wouldn't do. Maguire's more of a safe player. Anyway, Pogba in the middle. McTominay, who I thought was easily the best player for us yesterday. McTominay actually showed he wanted to win the final. Fernandes, he was kind of obsolete. I don't know where he went. Marcus Rashford, well, we'll talk about him in a minute. Greenwood on the right, and then Cavani up top. So this was the best lineup that Solskjaer could field, and that's what he went for. And then it just, for me, he has no faith in his substitutes. Let's have a look at the subs bench, right? Would you guys put any of these players on if things aren't clicking? Harry Maguire, obviously he wasn't going to play him. He's not fit. Juan Mata, he came on just for the penalties. Lee Grant, and you've got Fred, who came on for Greenwood. We'll talk about that one. Amid Diallo didn't come on. James came on late. Henderson didn't, obviously. Goalie. Telles came on for the pens. Matic, Williams, Van der Beek, and Tenzebi came on for whatever purpose at the end. I don't know why. But he looked tired. Maybe took him off. So that's what he had. So during the match, you know, the 90 minutes went, he still didn't make a substitute, and then he finally makes a change, and he decides, I'm going to take off Mason Greenwood, who actually, I thought, you know, he would take a penalty because Greenwood's not bad at them. And he brings on Fred. I couldn't fathom that one out. And it was like, Marcus Rashford, let's talk about Rashford real quick, had a really, really bad game. You know, the guy was trying, but it just wasn't clicking into gear for him. And you could tell, like, he was getting frustrated. And I don't know, I know it's a thing with Solskjaer where he doesn't want to take some of these players off because, you know, he knows he doesn't want to upset Rashford, and Rashford's been at United for so long and he's been through the youth, so is Greenwood. But why did he keep him on? He had Amid Diallo on the bench, who would have given us some pace down the flank. Yeah, I know Rashford's pacey, but Amid Diallo will cut inside. He played really well against Wolves. He showed his quality. So that was my first big problem with Solskjaer, is getting rid of Greenwood and taking off, not Rashford. Take off Rashford. He was terrible. I have nothing against the guy, but this is a final. You're getting paid a lot of money to do a job. If it's not happening, then all right, take the guy off. And I knew exactly what was going to happen with him. I even said to my brother and my dad afterwards when we were talking about the game, I said, he's going to be hit racially online now, and he's going to get abused. And that's exactly what's happened. Instead of Solskjaer technically taking off Rashford and maybe even saving that, because if he did bring on a player and they ended up winning the game, Rashford wouldn't have got hit hard with the racial abuse and all that. We know people do that these days. People are very, very, what's the word? I mean, passionate. Of course, we're passionate about the game, but some people go too far, like sending people death threats, racially abusing them. It's ridiculous, you know, and that needs to stop. And it isn't going to stop because social media is social media. But he should have took Rashford off. That was the biggest mistake he made, first of all. Didn't want to change up the team, was so timid about the way he was managing this side. And then what makes it even worse is, let's talk about David De Gea, because this match was won, obviously, through the penalties. Now, I'm not going to be sitting here and critiquing David De Gea and saying this is his fault. I'm not saying that in any shape or form. This is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's fault, because he should have known before this, because he knows penalties were on the horizon. David De Gea, listen to this, right, has not saved a penalty since 2016. He's not a penalty stopper in any way. He's dreadful at them. Even when you watch David De Gea take or set up for a penalty, there's something about him where he almost waits and then he dives too late, and he has no conviction. It doesn't look like he's interested half the time. He was never going to save a pen. And then you've got Henderson on the bench. Whoops, we've gone back. You've got Dean Henderson on the bench, who saved 6 penalties compared to David De Gea's 0, and he didn't want to bring him on. That was the one change that he had to make that would have changed the course of this game. It may have not, but I'm sure it would have, because their penalties were good, but De Gea should have saved some of them. Likewise, their goalie was bloody dreadful. I mean, Luke Shaw's penalty, Rooney in goal, should have saved Luke Shaw's pen. He didn't. He was just as bad as De Gea. But I guarantee you, if Solskjaer had put Henderson in goal instead of David De Gea, knowing that Henderson is a far better penalty stopper than De Gea, we would have won the final. That, for me, is where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer messed up. Yeah, he messed up beforehand with making substitutions. He didn't want to do it. He's got a lot to learn, Solskjaer. Not just that, but the worrying thing about this, folks, is he really has no faith at all in his bench. He has no faith in his bench at all. He's got Donny van der Beek, who he spent 40-odd million on, in a final, and he didn't even want to bring him on. I mean, how insulting is that to a player like Van der Beek? We'll put Fred on instead, or Dan James, instead of technically, a proper international player. It's bad, and Solskjaer really has to have a look at himself and sort himself out in that regard. Like, if you're going to buy players and not play them, then what's the point? There is no point. So I'm a little bit concerned with, like, Solskjaer depth-wise, thinking that this team has no depth. And if that's the case, well, you better get the checkbook out. Because you better start signing some players and making this squad a lot deeper than it is. Because yesterday was a telltale sign that there's no depth in the team. And our manager has no faith in them. I mean, Man City's different. We know about Man City. They could field 11 players and then field another top-quality 11 players. But they also play different style of football. They've got probably the best manager in the world right now in Guardiola. And he plays ridiculous football, you know. It just didn't click yesterday, folks. And it really was, you know, a smack in the face when, you know, we lost on penalties the way we did. I honestly thought a lot of the players would miss the penalties. Credit to all the players that took the penalties. They were fantastic. And as I say, I'm not going to sit here and slag off David De Gea because he tried. But he's not a penalty stopper. And Solskjaer should have seen that, known that, and instead of doing the changes that he did, like taking, you know, Fred on off or putting Fred on or Dan James on, he should have took De Gea off and put Henderson in goal. We'd probably be sitting here right now and celebrating that we've won a title this season, but, you know, we haven't. So that's my thoughts on it. You know, it's a long one of me sitting here and just blabbering on, but that's my 2 cents. I mean, if I was going to rate the players yesterday, I'd probably give, you know, David De Gea, I mean, apart from missing the penalty, you know, a 7, whatever. He didn't do that bad in goal. Luke Shaw was probably about a 7. Lindelof. Honestly, they're all probably about 6s. McTominay, I'd probably give an 8 for what he did. Bruno Fernandes was very disappointing. He has to show more, Bruno. You know, he gets all upset after the game and he talks a big talk about, oh yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Doesn't show it on the field. Doesn't show it at all. I thought Pogba gave it away a few times, but he showed a little bit more oomph than Bruno did. You know, Edison Cavani does what Cavani can do. Rashford had an absolute nightmare. I'd probably give him like a 3 or a 4, which is harsh, but it's true. And just got a lot of work to do, folks. This was a big telltale sign yesterday that we don't have any depth. We need to buy some players. Solskjaer needs to trust the players he signs, needs to give them a chance. And just needs to figure it out. It's as simple as that, really. So that's all I have for you today, folks. You know, you let me know. I'm annoyed about it, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. We'll bounce back, but it's a sign of where we need to go in the future. We need a deeper squad, and Solskjaer still has to figure out quite a few things as a manager because you can't wait a whole 90 minutes plus to make a first change of the game when it's not working. It's not working. We didn't even look like a real threat for the whole match. But he didn't want to make the changes. So anyway, that is all for today. Let me know your thoughts below. We'll return with Marseille tomorrow. And until next time, take care.